So life is too short to skip the small talk. I enjoy the small talk, and that leads to deeper, better conversations. And we are going to have that today with our friend Tabitha. So before I bring Tabitha in, Tabitha is a survivor through the troubled teen industry, and she is a powerhouse. She supports the whole network of Surviving Network. She's been a guest on Unholy two or three different times, and I'm going to share the link in the show notes to all of her episodes because her story is important and she speaks beautifully on behalf of so many survivors to bring awareness. When we talk about let the women do the work, this girl does the work. I wanted to have her on today. She's not going to share all in detail of her story because she's done that on Jenny's episode, so you can hear that in the links below. But she has started a petition and is knocking on doors for signatures, and I can't wait for us to talk about it. So we'll get deeper into that. But first, let's welcome our friend and one of our biggest cheerleaders, Tabitha. My love, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Oh
How
my
are you?
gosh, such an honor. You've supported me and Jenny in our platforms, and you're such a cheerleader for us. And I'm so glad that, we are able to that back with you. You heard my introduction. You are absolutely a powerhouse, and your voice needs to be heard. And what I love about your story is you will take the empathy you will but you won't have someone feel sorry for you, and you don't just speak for yourself, and you're fighting for the people that have suffered from it, that have PTSD from it, and trying to prevent it from happening to other people, and even having resources available for people who have been sent to these facilities. And what do they do when they get out? Like, you work day and night, and I just uh, such a fan. I just love and support everything that you're doing. But before
Thank
we
you.
get too started into all of that, we like to have a few minutes of just petty grievance talk, just to kind of lighten the mood. So tell us, my friend, what are you surviving ish this week?
This rain, it's getting in the way. It's annoying, and it's cold too. So it's like cold rain.
Oh gosh.
Nobody likes to be cold and wet, right?
What and remind me, what state do you live in?
Indiana.
Indiana. Okay. So I'm not familiar with, I don't think I've ever been to Indiana. I don't know what the weather's like there. So here in Tennessee, like,
You don't want to come here.
fair. Here in Tennessee, like, I live real close to the Smoky Mountains. I will say sitting out on my back porch is beautiful. Like, you see all the trees when they're changing colors, but I don't know how to dress.
Jealous.
I don't know how to dress. It's like a jacket and sweater is too much, but just a sweater is not enough. And we have like all four seasons in one day, every day for like 3 weeks. And as we speak, it's already dark outside. We're recording at 3 o'clock Eastern time. It's already dark because the rain, the
Oh
ice, and
my,
snow is coming in. So,
that's rough.
so
That is
is this weather this time of year? Is that normal for Indiana?
I mean, I would actually expect snow right now. So rain is actually a little bit weird that it's warm enough for rain, but I'm almost glad that it's raining and not snowing.
Yeah,
So,
fair. And I guess like where I don't know much about Indiana, and I've never even watched these movies, but I guess I always think about Indiana Jones, and and
I don't even think he's from Indiana.
right, and I've never even watched the movies, but when I think about him, for some reason I think about jungle and desert. Are there deserts in Indiana? Am I just
Desert?
making am I just making stuff up in my head?
No, we do not have deserts. We have lots and lots of cornfields.
Huh.
It's a very flat state. Unless you go like to the very like southern part of Indiana, then you have some hills, like because it's near Kentucky and Kentucky's very hilly.
Yeah.
But like the northern part, and at least Indianapolis where I am, it's a very flat and boring.
Isn't that funny that like I can picture the Indiana Jones profile covers, and I see desert.
Yeah, it's amazing how the mind works, isn't it?
Huh. There's so much that I don't know.
Me too. I think there's so much that all of us don't know.
And some of the viewers are going to be messaging me saying, "Oh my gosh, you have to watch Indiana Jones. You have to," but it's not my type of genre. It's not my thing. But now it's like I almost want to find where I was misled. Like now I feel challenged.
It's probably because it has the word Indiana, like that's his name, so it's not
Right.
actually associated with the state of Indiana.
Oh, you're probably right. So here I thought he was in jungles and maybe he was in jungles and deserts, but his name is Indiana. It wasn't the state of Indiana. I thought he was out trying to save the state of Indiana from like a,
No, no.
well, my goodness. Huh. I guess
Learn something new every day, right?
yeah, I guess the cover of a book is worth a thousand words. That's
That's why they
funny.
say don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, that is hilarious. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to check in on that. That might be a something that we pick back up on at a later date when I have you back, because this is gonna have me like scratching my head. Okay, so my surviving ish is gonna be a bit of confession, and that is that I'm a hypocrite, and I realized that today. So I'm a very fast walker. I cannot stand when someone in front of me, especially like when you're at Walmart or a grocery store and they're just walking real slow and then they want to walk side by side with their friend or partner and you can't get around them and you're just barely and I'm like, I just need over there. And then you have the people that will pull their cart up, in the middle of an aisle and they'll abandon their cart. Their phone is there, their jacket is there, what they've already shopped for is there, just leaving it exposed. And they'll abandon it to walk a few feet down to stand in the middle of the aisle to look at other items. And it's I'm like, you know what? The cart needs to go with you. I don't care if it's 3 feet, 2 feet, 100 feet. The cart needs to go with you. Get out of my way. Move. Today, I was extremely uncomfortable because I was shopping for my niece and nephew for Christmas just to grab a few things, and I was looking at clothes. And I'm not a parent, so I was trying to like Google like how when the mother tells me they wear a 4T, like what does the T mean? And so I was like having to like Google all these things. And I abandoned my cart. And then this Walmart shopper comes down with this big crate of thing. And all of a sudden, I hear a crash and the mannequin falls over. The crash was my buggy that I had abandoned, and he didn't see it and he hit it. And then it knocked over this little baby toddler mannequin thing and he was apologetic. I had to be apologetic, and I was like, I'm such a hypocrite because I fuss about this all the time. I get in my car and I cuss all the way home about slow people or inconsiderate people, and I was that person today. And it makes me wonder how many times I've been that person. And you know what? Here's the truth. I want to continue to fuss about the people that do it, and I'll probably still keep doing it. However, what was on the little kid mannequin that got murdered during this was exactly the size of what I was looking for and needed. So when we were putting up the mannequin, I noticed on the tag and I was like, oh, can we just undress this mannequin while she's at her lowest? And we did. And so my niece has this cute little skirt pantsuit thing that I cannot wait to give her. So
Oh,
confession is I'm a hypocrite and I will probably continue to be.
at least you can admit when you're being a hypocrite
I
and doing
mean,
the
I
exact
mean,
thing you complain about.
there's that. All right, Tabitha, like as we get more into the more serious topic, give us just maybe a bit of your backstory. Like I said, the full story can be heard on the Unholier podcast, and the notes, the link to the shows will be in the show notes. But just so people can follow, give us just the cliff notes of your backstory that's led you to what you're doing today.
Okay, I can do cliff notes. So I was taken away from my biological mother when I was 5, and then I was in foster care for about 3 years, and I was adopted by the people I call my parents now, even though I don't want to call them that, but there's really no other word for that appropriately.
Right.
Um, when I was 8, and then when I was 12, I was sent away to a behavior modification boarding school, therapeutic boarding school in Jamaica called Tranquility Bay, which was a WASP school, and WASP stands for Worldwide Association of Specialty Programs. And it was the main reason I was sent away is because my parents were very religious, and I didn't fit the box of what they thought that I was supposed to be when they adopted me. I didn't fit into the perfect child box of children are to be seen and not heard. I was very loud. I was also traumatized from my life before being adopted, and I just didn't fit what they thought they were getting. And so they sent me away to basically like not my problem anymore. And then at Tranquility Bay in Jamaica, witnessed and experienced emotional, mental, physical, and sexual abuse while at Tranquility Bay, and hundreds of thousands, and there are millions of survivors of programs just like the one I went to, collectively called the troubled teen industry, which I do want to point out that that is a deceptive title of these programs, because most of the children that are sent to these programs are not troubled in the sense of out of control parents like last resort. Was not the case for most of the kids sent to these places, and even so there's no excuse for child abuse and no excuse for these places in the first place.
I mean, and forgive me for interrupting, but I want to remind the listener, to anyone that is new, you might not have heard me say this, but to anyone who's been following my show from the beginning, when, I was not a part of the TTI, the Troubled Teen Industry. When I first got started, I had someone who is now a close friend reach out to me and was like, I have a bunch of people that want to share a story with you. And I was like, how do I not know about this? How is this not just publicly widely known? So a couple of things I want to say is, as we're talking about this, and this is to the listener, as Tabitha and I are talking about this is still happening as we speak today. This is not something that was 80s and 90s. Well, I mean, it was, but it's still happening today. This is not just Tabitha's story. She got out because the school shut down and it's over for everyone. It's not the case. It is still happening. They were powerful enough to even be a part of getting Paris Hilton. And I'm not saying that money is bigger and better than anyone, but imagine the resources that the Hiltons have. And at their fingertips, they have the amount of resources, and they were still able to convince the Hiltons that Paris should be in this facility, and the Hiltons paid them all kinds of money. The last thing that I want to hit on, just to have fresh and at the forefront of the listener's mind, is you probably heard me say this before if you're a long time listener, but the troubled teen industry is perfect branding, because if a child gets the opportunity to speak to their parent, sibling, guardian, aunt, uncle, whoever that is on the outside, and they do try to expose what they're going through, the coordinator is able to immediately take the phone away from them and say, remember, your teen is here because they're troubled. They're lying to you. They're troubled, remember? And so I will say it is brilliant branding, but it's simply not the truth. And I will shut up on my tangent. I just wanted to be the outsider looking in, stating those things because we have a lot of listeners that they didn't know about the TTI until I started releasing episodes about it. And so I just wanted to point out those things just to have it at the forefront of their brain. Thank you for letting me interrupt.
Oh no, you're good. Those are both very good points, and kind of what I was trying to say. You just put it way more eloquently than I could have. But yes, absolutely. It's a very deceptive name for, and something that, if you go watch my episode with Jenny, is that we actually renamed it to the traumatized teen industry in one of our episodes. And because that's a more accurate description of what the industry is, because everybody comes out of there more traumatized than they were before they went in.
Yeah.
And so I experienced that from when I was 12 until I was 17. And then I was pulled out of the program. I didn't work the program. I didn't move up in the program. I wouldn't put myself in the box they wanted me to put that they wanted to put me in to follow the rules and think like they do. And but when I was 17, I was pulled out of the facility and I was put in a apartment by my parents and basically told, "Hey, we've paid a month of, your rent and your electric and blah blah blah, but you're on your own." And something to remember about that is that I had been on the program since I was 12. So and they don't teach you any life skills in the programs at all. So I didn't know how to write a resume. I didn't know how to do laundry. I didn't know how to cook food. I didn't know how to find a job. None of that.
So let me
So
ask you, you had a high school diploma, but in the real world, right outside of Tranquility Bay, did they consider that an actual high school diploma? Because I know that there were some credits that with college that would. So you did you end up having to get your GED?
I didn't get my GED. I got lucky enough where I had a school that accepted. They didn't look deep into the transcripts that I had.
Okay.
They just kind of accepted them, so I got kind
Okay.
of lucky there. But my actual diploma and my transcripts are not worth the paper that they're written on, and that is true for almost all the WASP programs because they said that they were accredited and they were not actually accredited with any accreditation company. So yes, there's a lot of survivors that thought they graduated because I actually thought I graduated at 15. So I went through school pretty quickly. I've always been a quick learner and quick to catch on. And I thought, so for after I'd been there 2.5 years, I thought I had already graduated high school and I was ready for college. But then when I got out, the very first place I tried to apply to said my diploma was basically BS. So
Did
yeah,
they think that you did like fraudulent activity to show that you had a diploma?
I'm
Like
not
like did
sure.
it
I'm not
fall
really
on you somehow? Okay.
I'm not really sure what they thought. I believe it was in an email. I don't think they told me in person.
Gotcha.
Um, and I was like, oh my. And then I had actually reached out to another survivor that I knew, and they were like, yeah, I was told mine was invalid too because it wasn't accredited. And I'm like, oh,
Well, and as I
okay.
ask that question, I have to think that even though the facilities, these schools are not telling you this, but there are millions of kids that have been in these facilities.
Hmm.
So this is not foreign to these like college directors or administrative people who are like, we cannot accept this because for the terms of our grading scale is not relevant to the one that you were on. So I guess it wasn't foreign to them.
And it's not their fault that they have way more applicants to most colleges than they have spaces for, so they have to give it to the people that can actually show that they have these grades and these extracurriculars and X, Y, and Z. And if you can't show that, that's not on them. You know what I mean? And it's not fair to the survivor either at that point because they thought that they had already graduated from actual high school. So and not a GED, they thought they had an actual high school diploma. I
This,
mean, it's
this
unfair all.
yeah, and this obviously is something that's just coming to my brain now, so it's not a thought out idea. But so bear with me as I process while talking. But has there been any schools any colleges that have found a pattern of students getting out of the TTI and thinking they've graduated and come to find out they did per TTI, but not per college standards in real society. Has there been like a group or classes that have been designed to figure out and evaluate where maybe these teenagers, these young adults at this point are from the TTI to get them to the level they need to be without having to start completely over as far as their education?
Not that I know of.
Okay, I've said it in recording on December 10th, 3:30 p.m. This is mine on top of this idea. It is trademark. It is in stone right now. We might need to see about that. Because seriously, wouldn't that be great if there was some kind of program that contact us? We are able to evaluate. We can give you a test to see where you are on the grading scale and to see where we can take 3 months or a year to educate you to get you to that college level where you absolutely have graduated and this diploma cannot be disputed.
I mean,
Wouldn't it be
yeah,
great?
that's definitely something to look into for sure. I think that's a great idea.
And if
Um,
anyone can do it, it's you, Tabitha. So I had the idea. You run with it. Let's see what happens.
well, I always love talking to other people because I'm one person and there's a lot of things I don't know and I can't be knowledgeable or expect to come up with all the ideas myself, as the founder and the CEO. And so I love when other people come up with ideas that they share with me because it makes everything better.
Well,
So
and here's another thing that I would love to be able to do, and this might be something that you're interested in, or maybe you already do, but under the podcast name, one of my dreams is to have care packages because I speak with a lot of people who are leaving an abusive relationship and they're packing up and they're hitting the street and they didn't have time to take deodorant, a toothbrush and toothpaste. And so they get to where they're going, but they have nothing. They can't even brush their teeth. They can't comb their hair. They have 3 changes of diaper, just whatever they can grab and get out. I would love to start up something under the podcast name where I have care packages ready. If you contacted me and said this person needs an Uber ride from point A to point B in a care package, I will pay for the Uber ride and we will ship them overnight them that care package. Or I can put them together and we can have people in different cities and within states that, like wherever we have friends, we're like, hey, we're going to ship you 10 care packages. That way the shipping could be cheaper and quicker depending on where the person's located. Or they can get toothpaste, deodorant, a hairbrush. Maybe there's a $25 Walmart. I mean, I'm small, right? Maybe there's a $25 Walmart card in there where they can get a few groceries, just something to until they can figure out what's next. Because those little things I just mentioned are why people don't leave. Why women don't leave certain situations, why some men don't leave certain situations. And then when you think of the troubled teen, once you turn 18, I guess, once you're set out, if we've talked to plenty of people that their parents want nothing to do with them. Their parents signed custody over to this facility, and now they've
yeah,
aged out, and that's when they turn to drugs and prostitution. They're going to sell what they have, and what they have is their body. And if a man comes up to, a 19-year-old that was just sitting on the street and said, "Hey, I'll give you $100 and a place to sleep tonight, and I'll give you a meal, but this is what I need," she's going to think she doesn't have a choice.
love
And so I would love to be in touch with you about how to maybe start something like that. Sometimes knowing that people would just have a place to call and they get an Uber ride to the hotel and that they can get a few groceries. Well, even if it's peanut butter and light bread, at least it's something, right? And a toothbrush.
yeah. Sometimes it's just the little things that can make somebody feel like they're cared about and like they matter and
Yeah.
like their life matters because especially coming out of a domestic violence situation or an abusive family relationship or the troubled teen industry. It can feel extremely lonely, and you can feel like the whole world is against you.
Yeah.
And I do not have something like that. We are currently working on a different aspect of that, though, where we plan to send out like mental health boxes, and they have like shower steamers or snacks, or just to pick somebody up when they're having a really bad week
I love
mentally, because
that.
getting something in the mail can completely change your mindset. I know it
Oh
does for
yeah.
me. I get a letter in the mail from someone and I'm like, ooh, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
then birthday boxes, because a lot of people don't have anybody to celebrate their birthday with them. And I think birthdays are important. I mean, a lot of people will be like, that's small in the big scheme of things. But when you're talking about mental health and you're talking about people feeling like they deserve a seat at a table,
Yeah.
birthdays are important. And
I want to be a part of that with you. And what I would also like to offer is I'm not certified, I'm not licensed, but I'm a good listener and I'm a good friend. If anyone, especially, I've had parents reach out to me privately and say, my son just came out of the closet. We don't know any other gay person. Could we just set up a Zoom call with you? If there's anything like that where I could just be an ear and a friend and volunteer 30 minutes or an hour of my time to sit and talk with someone. And I mean, again, not a doctor, there would be no trying to diagnose or anything, but it would just be like you said. Sometimes what they need to do is be able to write on their calendar that they have a date. They have a coffee date with a friend tomorrow. Get up and put your lipstick on, get up and brush your teeth, put on a nice shirt, and get on Zoom and have your coffee date with your new friend who is here to just support. Like I think things like that make a huge impact.
they are. And people a lot of times overlook the little things like, just having a coffee date or a conversation or a quick 30-minute Zoom call or a mental health box or
Yeah.
even a card in the mail, like a Christmas card. Like I'm currently working on Christmas cards for our volunteers. And I think that's just so important for me and for an organization, because it makes people know that you care about them, and it makes them, and even the most healed people still need that, still need to know, hey, I belong at this table, and this person is showing me that I belong at this table, and I did it just for being me. You want, everyone wants that affirmation that, hey, I matter.
And they
And it helps
deserve
people's
that.
mental health.
And everyone deserves that. That is not,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, there are people that take it to a narcissistic side, but everyone needs that. And I want to be
Mm-hmm.
a part of that. And so, obviously, me, you, and Jenny have ongoing private outside conversations, but loop us into things because we're getting like one of our goals for 2026 now that we've established, we've got our foot in the sand with, a lovely platform that's growing daily. We want to get involved. And the thing is a lot of things that we can do, a lot of things that people can volunteer to do would cost maybe 30 minutes to an hour of your time, but it wouldn't cost you money. It's not just about money. Now, we'll
It
talk
isn't.
later, we'll talk later about donations and stuff like that, but just donating your
Time is
time.
just as important money.
Yeah.
Time is
Yeah.
just as important as money,
Yeah.
if not more important, because I mean, I know I'm one person and I have some volunteers, and they do certain things, specific things, but other than that, I handle everything related to survivors unrestrained, and I only have so much time. And so if other people are able to donate their time and give me more time to do more things, then
Yeah.
that makes the world of a difference. And yeah, so you're right. It's not all about money. It
Right.
isn't. Although money is important, that's how we grow, but
Well,
not everyone
absolutely.
can
Absolutely.
afford not everyone can afford
100%.
to do that. But time
100%.
time is a form of money, is a form of a monetary donation. So
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Okay. So you just mentioned survivors unrestrained. So with again with your story that everyone can hear, in the show notes, once you got away from Tranquility Bay and you were able to start building a healthy life for yourself, you never thought, well, it's over for me. You knew that it was not over for you. It was just a different kind of chapter. There was still the mental health thing to process through, and you've always remembered that there are still people that are in these facilities and you fight. So you started Survivors Unrestrained.
I did.
So tell us about that.
So Survivors Unrestrained actually formed in my head about it was April of 2023, and the documentary, the program Cons Carlton Kidnapping, which is on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, you should probably go watch it.
Oh, wow.
It is about the WASP programs. It's specifically about Ivy Ridge, which was in New York, but it was owned by the same people and in the same network that Tranquility Bay was. And I didn't watch it. I haven't. I don't watch. I don't really watch most of the program documentaries because I lived it. I
I was
don't
gonna say
really
you
need
lived it. Yeah.
like there's nothing that's going to be in those videos that I didn't
Right.
experience in my 4.5 years in the program. And so I don't feel a need to do that. There's some I will watch. I do plan on watching like The Kids Are Not All Right, maybe The Wilderness, the ones that aren't as intense.
Sure.
But that came out, and when it did, I saw the community come together. I saw voices being set out. I saw people feeling validated, their stories feeling validated, and I joined in on that. And the first thing I noticed was that I wasn't the only survivor that was struggling emotionally, mentally, financially, just in life in general, because sometimes I just wish there was a manual. And I noticed, like, I thought that I was the only one. And I wasn't. And I realized that there was no support for survivors. There was no, we come out and we're just forced to live life without any resources, without any support, without any community. And, because a lot of us don't have family, we don't have the friend network because we weren't here in our teenage years, or at least I wasn't. And so I don't have, like, I have my friends since I was in seventh grade. No, I don't have that.
Yeah, there's no
And
community for you.
yeah. And so I decided to create Survivors Unrestrained, which main focus is creating that survivor community, the resources that survivors need. And something that you'll hear me say a lot is I want it to be like the VA, but for survivors.
Yeah.
And because that's the best way to describe it. The VA helps veterans with everything, from health insurance, education, housing, all of that. And that's exactly what we want to be, but for survivors of institutional child abuse. And I think it's so important. There's estimated over 5 million survivors. So we have a lot of people that need help, and some of them and a lot of them are still isolated because they don't realize there's a community of people that want to connect with them, want to share experiences and be there for them, and stuff like that. So Survivors Unrestrained is all about that, but also at the same time, I would absolutely, Survivors Unrestrained will be my life's legacy. It will be needed for at least all of my life. But my goal, and I think all survivors' goals, is I want Survivors Unrestrained to be obsolete eventually. I don't want there to be survivors for us to have to help.
Yeah.
And that is where the petition comes in, and to cut these place in the abuse and cut these things out, because I don't want us to need my organization. I don't want my organization to last generations.
That is such a powerful statement because, with me having the education that I have on the business end of things, like one of the things that we're always taught is you want to have a product and a business to have repeat customers. And so I have that trained mindset of we need the repeat customers. And so for you to say, I want my business, I want my nonprofit to have to close the doors one day because there's no one else. That's powerful.
Yeah,
That's powerful.
that's the end goal. It
But
won't happen in my lifetime because there's still kids in the industry right now that are 15, 16 that are going to need help, when they get out.
but at the same time, and I think what's so great with what you're doing is we have to remember that these children, they get out of TTI in their, teenage adult years, they get married, they have children, they have unprocessed trauma, and so the generational abuse begins. And because we have this Stepford wife picture perfect idea of this person gets out of TTI, they go to therapy one time, they get married, they have babies, and everything's perfect and great. Well, it's
No.
not. They don't know how to be parents. They don't know how to maybe talked to or disciplined correctly. And so then they're passing down. So even when their child maybe never went to a TTI, there's still trauma that comes with it. And so maybe it's one day that your nonprofit, your business will never have to close its doors. It will just evolve into something different that is still there to help the survivors of TTI and the survivors who have victimized or hurt their loved ones until they learned better and different, because it's an endless cycle.
Yeah. I think the main people that survivors hurt from knowing, and that does happen where what you said, but the main people that survivors tend to hurt is themselves.
Yep.
Between suicide, I have there's been two survivors that I actually went to school with and were in my group that died from domestic violence situations because they didn't know
Yeah.
what a relationship was supposed to look like, and they didn't value their worth. So when they found a relationship and it wasn't good, they didn't know to recognize that because the relationship, they felt valuable to that person. And when you're broken down completely in these programs and told that you don't matter, everything in your life is your fault, and you'll never become anything if you don't graduate, and then you don't graduate and you get out and you've been told that for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and you're as a teenager with your formative years where you're forming your opinion about yourself and you're forming your beliefs about yourself. What's going to happen when you get out? And I mean, for me, I went almost straight from the troubled teen industry into being labor trafficked, selling magazines door to door. A lot of survivors end up in situations, and luckily I got out, but and I found an amazing man and I got married and my life has been fairly good.
Yeah.
And but not every survivor is that lucky. Is that I don't want to say lucky. They're not. I don't really know what word to use,
I know
but
lucky is such a hard word to pick, but like what I picture is not every survivor gets, none of us get the same path, right? And your path is a lot different than others. And depending on what path you're on, the word that they choose might be better. They might say you're one of the lucky ones, but your path was just different than a lot. And I want to emphasize that when I talk about the generational abuse, and I know that I don't have to tell you this, Tabitha, but for my own peace of mind and to the listener, all forms of abuse are bad, whether it's to yourself or to your loved one. But when people are abused, and sometimes they don't know they're being abused, and so they continue those traits on to their children, to their spouses, and that is not justifying that someone else was being abused, but it allows a little bit of like grace of where we are with mental health and where we're not with mental health, and that we allow people to get out of prisons, to get out of TTIs, and we say, all right, here's this big old world, go figure it out. But what I find interesting is I mentioned prisons, but when you do the research on things, prisoners, when they get out, they have more help than people that age out of TTI. They
yes,
get to
they
go
have
to halfway.
resources available to them.
Yeah, they get to go to halfway houses that help them get a job, that help them get established. They have counselors, they have probation officers, they're held to accountability. They have some freedom. They're taught things. Some of them get good education while they're in prison, and I'm glad that happens because when you're served your time, I want you to get out of prison and get reacquainted with the world and be lovely to everyone in society, including yourself. TTI people don't get that.
Nope. And that's where Survivors Unrestrained comes in. That's what we want to be, is that support network that. But let's not overlook how awful it is that and I believe that prisoners should have that too, but we can offer that to prisoners, but we can't offer that to our children. That's awful. Like,
100%.
even if it's good, it's still, when you compare the two, like, we don't have these resources for our children coming out of these institutions, but we have it for our prisoners who actually committed crimes and were convicted of these offenses that come out, they get more support than our 18-year-old children that are coming out of, because there's such a bad stigma around these facilities that a lot of people think that these facilities are only for the completely unstable and completely out of control kids. But even if they are, why aren't there more resources? But even
Right.
so, that's not the case. These places, children can be sent to these places for. I've had survivors tell me they were sent because their step parent didn't like them. I was sent because I was adopted and my parents, I didn't fit the mold my parents wanted me to fit. There's, you can be sent for any reason.
Yeah. Well, and I think that what you said is a great point. And you know what I hear, Tabitha, is money. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you get into the TTI, people are doing second mortgages on their home, they're selling kidneys, they're doing all kinds of things to pay for this child to be there. And in a lot of cases, signing custody over, and then when that child
Mm-hmm.
turns 18 years old, they're sit on the side of the street, no family, no resources. We also find with a lot of research I've done how cops and judges are also involved, hospitals, doctors are also involved with these facilities. This is a multi-billion dollar industry. And so
The
so
B,
with
billion.
with the big B, yeah. And so what I think is important to say is when I mention the money is when this person is set out at 18 years old with no resources. In a lot of cases, and I could be wrong with this, maybe you know a stat, maybe you know something different, but I would think that in a lot of cases, within a year of being set out, they've been to jail at some point and they're in the jail system at some point, which means there's court fees to pay. So now we're taking money from the people who don't have money and resources, which means it's just that repeat cycle of jail and can't get ahead. And I could be completely wrong with that, but it just seems like a money grab from the poor.
I'm sure that the numbers are pretty high. I didn't personally go to jail within a year of getting out, but I know
Right,
that
not everyone, but
I'm sure the numbers are very high, and I'm sure that there are
well, and
survivors that
there's
would
even been
tell you that
previous
personally.
guests. Yeah, there's been
Yeah,
previous guests I had, that, and a lot of them were the men that ended up in jail.
yeah. And I think that that correlates to the trauma and to the a lot of people get out of this and they have no familial connections, no friend connections, and
Yeah,
no money, no education, no resources available to them. If you are desperate, you are
yeah,
going to do whatever you can to survive. And sometimes that is turning to alcohol and drugs to
yeah.
numb the pain. And
Or to make a quick buck, you know?
mhm,
And and to the listener, please know that when I say they end up in jail, I don't mean it's because they're a bad person. I mean it because we have failed them as a society.
yes, we
And,
have.
and that's what Survivors Unrestrained is trying to do is prevent the failures from the society, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and come to find out, maybe this happens in Indiana because it's not hot desert like I thought it was. But I know here it gets so cold that there are homeless people that will take a brick and throw it through a business window and just sit there wait for the cops to come because they're going to go to jail for a week because that
I
means
have
they get
heard of
three
that
meals.
happening.
Yeah,
Yes.
it means they get 3 meals. That means they're able to take a hot shower and they're not getting frostbite or going to sleep wondering if they're going to wake up. Like they're that desperate.
We have
And
an overwhelming number of survivors that are homeless
yeah,
or housing insecure. And I just want to say that it is really no fault of their own because they are dealing with so much trauma that most people could only imagine. And not only that, they were never given the resources, the education, or the community that they needed. And they came back and they were ignored by everybody here, and everybody failed them
yeah,
in providing resources and providing help. And people have been ignoring this issue, the troubled teen industry issue, for far too long,
yeah,
kind of out of sight, out of mind, because, these places are in very remote places, like in the middle of nowhere, New York.
yeah,
And people like to just, oh, if it's not my problem because it doesn't affect me.
yeah,
But we have failed these children at some as young as 8 because there have been kids as young as 8 sent to these programs. But as a society, it has failed us,
Yeah.
survivors in general.
And the last thing I want to say to piggyback off of that is, and I don't think that any of our listeners or you think this, but again, for my own peace of mind, I am by no means victim blaming. So anything that I'm saying is by no means to blame the victim. Like sometimes you just you do what you can with what you got and hope and pray for the best. And again, like I will double down on we fell as a society. I'm always on the victim slash survivor side, right? So I don't want anything that I say to make it sound like these quote unquote troubled teens get out and now they're troubled adults and going to jail. That's not what it is at all.
I didn't take it like that. I knew what
Oh,
you were saying.
exactly, exactly. But for my own peace of mind, in case there are any new listeners, because you have a lovely following that has maybe never listened to my show before and doesn't know me, that may be listening for the first time, and I want them to be like, "Who's this asshole?" You know? But so, with that being said, talk to us now about this petition that you're doing.
Fun stuff. I like fun stuff. So the Protect the Kids Act is a bill that we are trying to pass that will completely reform the troubled teen industry. It will require a medical mental diagnosis in order to, I don't even know if that's the real term, medical mental. Is it just mental?
Yeah,
I
mental diagnosis. Yeah, because the mental falls into the medical family. So yeah, medical
It
or
requires a
mental.
mental
Yeah.
diagnosis in order to get sent, which it doesn't require now. We just talked about that a little while ago, how you can get sent for any reason. It would ban out of the country and out of the state because currently kids can be, without parents' permission, can be transferred across state lines. And when there were more out of country ones, they could be transferred from Mexico to Jamaica to Costa Rica, like without the parents' permission. Because when parents put these kids in the programs, they have to sign over 50, most of the time, they have to sign over 51% of custody so that then, these facilities can get can get them medical treatment and blah, 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 blah. But we want to give more control back to the parents where the control should be. So out of state will no longer be a thing. Well, it will create a survivor led task force to do oversight for these places and be able to talk to the patients. And it's a whole list of other things like keeping track of owners, because something that is really big and has really frustrated me for years is the fact that one school will get shut down for abuse and that same owner will go open another one in the same state, in a different state.
Yeah,
It
just a
doesn't
mile down the
matter.
road. Yeah.
Yep. And this bill will allow them to not do that anymore, because if you have already had one shut down for abuse, you're no longer allowed to open another facility. And this is federal. This is a federal bill. So it won't matter what state they were in. They will no longer be, because there's currently no oversight to any of this, like federally. And there has to be. This is our children we're talking about. This is the future of our country. This is the future of us. I mean, and plus it's just wrong. And
So I have two questions for you. When a child, in your case, you got sent to Tranquility Bay, which is in Jamaica, but you're born and raised, you are a US citizen.
yes,
So if you turned 18 there and it was time to set you out, is it their responsibility to get you back to the States, or they set you out in the streets of Jamaica and then you've got to find a way to get back to the States? Like, how does that work?
they have to bring us back to the US. The You go by the age of the country, whatever the age the country considers um, you an adult.
Okay.
Jamaica, it is 18.
Okay.
But so when you turn 18, at least for my program, we have something that was called an exit plan. If you knew that you were going to be there until you were 18, or if you were close to 18, you would get what we call an exit plan. Mine personally, I was 9 months from turning 18. Mine was $50 and a plane ticket to Miami. I'm from Michigan, though, so I was going to be sent to Miami. It's never to your home state or your home, anywhere near your home location. And mine was, my $50 was actually a lot. Most people got
Wow.
$20 on a plane ticket to somewhere far from where they're from.
And so they're just
Um,
sent out the airport, and then it's like, all right,
mhm,
I'm a ride, or hopefully a phone number. Like,
yep,
wow.
pretty much. You're on your own.
So then my second question is, when we talk about federal, and forgive my ignorance with this, how would this bill help play a role when it comes to other countries? Like if it's federal, is that still going to be just for the US states? But what if you're in Jamaica?
Well, the bill is going to ban out of country placement, so
Oh, that's right.
won't
That's
matter.
right. So, but this would only help children going forward, which is still brilliant and lovely, right? But if they're already there,
Well, it will. The bill, how it works is the bill will apply in gradual things, so
okay.
they will have to be removed. Just won't
Oh,
be immediately as soon as the bill is placed, but if they have not received a, so what would happen is the parents would have to get an actual true mental diagnosis if they want to keep their kids at these facilities. It would be in a process. So it'd be like 6 months and then 8 months and then 12 months. But by the 12 months, any kid that doesn't have a mental diagnosis would have to be out of these facilities.
okay. I love that. So, what I also found interesting about your bill that I truly loved, and correct me if I'm wrong with the understanding, because it's a lot to take in, right?
It is,
Um,
yes.
so, but the way that I'm understanding it is one of the biggest problems with the TTI is the only people dot the I's and crossing the T's are people that are part of the TTI. So they're part of the corruption, they're part of the bullshit, they're part of the harm. What your bill is asking, demanding, whatever word you put with it, is that there's going to be a non-biased outsider
Yes.
that spot checks, that evaluates.
Yes. So the in order to get, like I said at the beginning, in order to get sent now, you'd have to have an actual mental diagnosis.
Uh,
That diagnosis would have to be by a licensed clinician who is unaffiliated with any of the programs financially related. Like if they're the niece of an owner, that is not possible. And then that clinician would have to be approved by the survivor led task force. And so all admissions would have to go through the survivor led task force. So it's like triple checking everything that happens because it'd have to go through the very people who have already survived this. And they would be doing the checks on that clinician to make sure that, hey, they have no connections to this, they're licensed, they have nothing on their background that would suggest that they would do this for money or for influence or power. And so, yeah, it's very important because the troubled teen industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So the possibility of somebody being connected to them is so important. And so that's why everything is going to have to go through the survivor led task force, and they're going to be the ones to approve the admission of children into these residential treatment facilities.
wow, I love that. And so, is there a way that a physician, a judge, someone could do an anonymous donation to TTI where we don't know that we're having the teen evaluated by a physician that is anonymous donator? Like, is that something that could, because I mean there's going to be gray lines that people find, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm absolutely not trying to, but I think about these things. Maybe it's my true
Yeah.
crime brain, maybe it's the political brain that I have right now because of where I stand with that. But I know that you're brilliant, and what you're covering is so great. But I immediately think of how corrupt these people are. And could there be some kind of like underground, like we could still have this skirt through and, because of this judge and this doctor.
Yeah. I think that eventually there will be people that go through the cracks. But the good thing about the bill is I have multiple redundancies in it. So the if that were to happen, if they were to get sent and they didn't have an actual mental need, the thing about that is that the bill also makes it fully legal and for there's two ways that that would be found out. One, children that get sent to these places will now have communication with the outside world because they don't now. So they will have access to advocates, their parents, and legal representative if they want one. And also, they'll be able to call the task force directly. They will be able to
Oh,
call. So that will help. They get in there, they realize that it, or and okay, and then the other way is that the survivor-led task forces can actually, what the bill does is it lets them actually go into the places, into these facilities, and talk to the child independently without anybody else,
okay.
except for an advocate. They can have an advocate with them if they want.
See, I love that
And
because that's going to help with those gray areas. Because and I guess where my mindset is, which is why I love having these conversations, is because again, I was not part of the TTI, but the horrific stories I've heard is you, the person monitoring your phone calls with any outsider is an employee of, so they're part of. Any nurse or doctor, if you're lucky enough to get a real nurse or doctor, are still a part of. The cops, like I've heard stories of, people, kids breaking out and cops picking them up and turn around and taking them right back. So I love that because that is, even if there's someone that falls through the cracks, there's still going to be a non-biased outside person that this child that might have fallen through the cracks at this time is going to have contact with.
well, another one part of the bill too, and I would call this a triple redundancy because those are both are going to prevent it. But at the same time, right now, kids have no representation when they get sent to these places. And part of the bill now that I'm trying to pass also requires that on top of a mental diagnosis, that a child has to have an advocate available to them before they're allowed to be admitted. So if they believe they don't have a mental health condition, all they have to do is tell their advocate and their representative, and then that representative will tell the task force who's supposed to approve these things, and then that creates an investigation before they're even sent into these places. They're going to be allowed to fight it, and
I love that.
because it's important. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so tired of children being treated like they have no rights,
Yeah.
like they're just property to be dealt with however people see fit. I'm as somebody who survived that, I'm tired of it. I hate when I see it because most of the time the abusers of the children that get sent to these are the family themselves. And whether they do it intentionally or like you said, it's generational trauma, it still happens. It's still no excuse for it. And the fact that nobody's catching it and it's just happening and kids can get sent away for no reason without no representation is it makes me sick because I know what happens in these places.
Yeah. Okay, so as we're bringing this closer to an end, I want to ask you a question, and you are definitely going to be educating me on this because I've never written a bill, I've never proposed a bill, I've signed a couple of petitions, but that's really all I know. So, if when this is presented, do they come back with a checklist and say, okay, we like this and this and this and this and this, but we don't like this and this, and then you amend it and then represent it? Like, is there like this is all or nothing? Like, what happens with that?
It is not all or nothing. Right now, I have everything that pretty much any survivor could want to be in a bill that still allows for mental health, residential treatment facilities. There's a lot of survivors that don't want any facilities at all, but I recognize that there are teenagers with true mental health issues that do need help, and we have to have somewhere safe for them to go that can't function at home. So with everything that's on there now, what will happen is once I find a sponsor, it will go to the legal department or whatever. They will rewrite it in legal terms, and then my sponsor and co-sponsors will take it to the House floor. Now they can like remove things, reword things, and then it would get sent back to the legal team. They would amend it, and then the sponsor would take it back to the floor, and that can happen multiple times. So the whole bill could pass, parts of the bill could pass, none of the bill could pass. It's a gamble, it's a risk, but I feel like it's too important to not at least try. And even if I fail, I mean, it at least it got talked about, at least it got brought to attention. And
Fail is not allowed. Like, you've not failed, you're not going to fail. Like, there's no way. You know what I mean? Like you said, even the fact that So, to the listener who may not know, Jenny and I, through the Unholier podcast, we go live on TikTok every Tuesday at 9 Eastern Standard Time. Always join us. We would love that. And we've had Tabitha on a couple of times. Last night, the of this recording, Tabitha was on because her episode had just came out, and I we were promoting the petition, and I was like, you know what? Like we've got 30 minutes left of the live. I'll give $5 donation to each person who signs the petition, and we did like a little countdown with it. It was a lot of fun. We raised like $100, and in 30 minutes or less, which was really nice. And so there, you're past the point of being able to fail. You've already passed, right? Regardless of the next obstacle that may come. When I was not talking bullshit in the beginning when I said you are a fighter for all. You are a woman of power. You're a woman who is just so strong and doing the freaking work. So the only way you could have failed is by not doing everything that you've already done and continuing to keep the foot on the gas pedal. So you can't fail at this point. You've already passed. That's my hopefully non
Thank you.
toxic positivity. So I want to ask you, as of right now of this recording, you have what, 430 signatures?
121.
421. Okay. And how many signatures do you have to have for it to be looked at, for the bill to be looked at?
So there's not like a specific amount.
Okay.
They'll look at it either way. But the more signatures mean that there'll be a that politicians will take it more seriously because they'll see,
Gotcha.
hey, there's a need for this, and that number starts at 1,000.
Okay.
They'll notice it, but the more, the better.
Okay.
Obviously, 10,000 is going to get more attention and media attention and
Yeah.
everything like that than 1,000 is. But right now, I'm pushing for 1,000. I want
Okay.
at least 1,000 before I start
So,
presenting it to
okay,
politics.
perfect. So there's no necessarily cutoff date, but there is going to be a time that you're ready to present. And by
Right.
the time that you're ready to present, you want 1,000 plus.
Yes.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So, to the listener, it's been on my socials already. It's been on Jenny's socials with Unholier already. Of course, please find Tabitha. I'll put all the links for the Survivors Unrestrained. She posted, she has a LinkedIn or a link
A
tree. A link
LinkedIn.
tree.
Oh, link tree. Yes.
Yeah. She has a link tree that has all the things. And so we'll
It
post
does
that.
have all the things.
Um, because it has not been presented yet. We're at the stages of getting it viewed by your legal team and revised anyway by the legal team. So we have
Yep.
time to get to that 1,000. So, guys, I know that we can make this happen. This is a growing platform. I get hundreds of downloads a week, and it's continuing to grow. I know it's not huge, but we are a small community. And what I love to remind people of is we are freaking mighty. So I will put the link to the petition in the show notes. There'll be promos and stuff coming out. I'll continue to share the links and we'll just keep the ball rolling. So keep us updated. Um, I just adore you and I love everything that you're doing. Your
I love
community,
you guys too.
yeah, your community is so lucky to have you. So before I ask you the fun little rapid fire question to bring us to an end, is there anything that you can think of that maybe we didn't speak about? Because I want to make sure we hit on all the things that's important.
I just wanna I think the only thing that we didn't really hit on is that we do need monetary donations as well.
Yes, yes.
Because doing this petition is going to cost money to legal team for travel, for the binders and printer ink in order to print the legislative packets. And all of those links are also in our link tree, which I can send you if you want to put it in the episode.
Please,
Um,
yes.
but monetary donations are important. Like we said earlier, time is important too, and sharing
Yeah.
is absolutely important if you can, and you're looking for a good cause to support, or you own a business and you want to sponsor us. We would absolutely love to talk about that.
And you know what I love? And let me throw this idea out here because this episode will come out in enough time, but there are always people that like you want to give a 5, 10, $20, Christmas gift to, but you don't know what to get them, do this in their name. Like if someone called me right now and said, "Hey David, like we're doing this Christmas exchange. What would you like for Christmas?" I'm like, "Okay, if you have a $25 limit, then I would like for you to donate $25 to Survivors Unrestrained in my name, in our name." That could be lovely. Maybe we need to make a post about that. I think that's a great idea because like there are a few little stocking stuffer ideas that I need, and I'm like, okay, if I'm about to spend $75 on little stocking stuffer ideas, what if I had like a cute little signed thank you card from you that says, thank you for the donation, to Survivors Unrestrained toward this petition in your name. Like we
Right.
could
Yeah.
create something like that. That could be really cute. I really like that
Another thing
idea.
is that when you go to sign the petition, it's going to ask you to donate money, which you're more than welcome to. I mean, it does promote. We have gotten a ton of signatures from people donating to that and it getting promoted. But if you would rather spend the money directly on us instead of putting the $3 or the $6 to the change.org, you could just send it to us directly because we can do so much with $3 or $6.
Well, I was going to say, because when you donate through that, they're going to have their holding fee, right? Because they've got to make their money too. So if I gave $10, you're getting $3 or $5 of that 10 versus if they send it to one of the pay sites that you have, Venmo or whatever it is, you're going to get 100%. Okay. That's good to know. And so let me ask you this, and then I'll do the rapid fire question. But again, I'm brand new to all this. Is there a GoFundMe? Is that something that we could do? Is that allowed to be done? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I could do a GoFundMe, but GoFundMe takes so many fees. And so I find that doing the PayPal and Zelle, like when you sent your donation earlier, like it doesn't, Zelle is probably the best one because it goes directly into Survivors Unrestrained bank account and it doesn't cost anything.
Okay.
But PayPal has extremely low fees for a nonprofit, and so does Cash App and Venmo.
So do
So
you
it
have like some kind of like flyer with a post that has this information that we could just continue to cycle in our feed of this is the cause, this is what we're doing, here are the links, please donate. Is that something that I could help you with? Um,
I would be open to that help.
okay,
I'm the one currently doing all of our like promotional stuff, and I'm not well versed in it, so
okay,
it's patchy. It's patchy.
okay. Because I feel like if we had something that we just kept repeating in cycle, where it was just because I know personally, I will hear something on a podcast and I'm like, okay, when I get home, I'm gonna look this up. And when I get home, I'm like, okay, let me eat dinner and I'm gonna look this up. And then by the time I get to bed, I've not looked anything up, and then I forgot that I need to look something up. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So it's
happens to
like
me all the time
we
too.
need it at the touch of our fingertip, where we can go in and we can do it. And knowing that if you're driving when you hear this, but when you see our social medias, when you're thumbing through social media, you're going to have that reminder of us being like, right here, baby, donate. Because seriously, if it's a dollar, if I have 500 downloads a week and 500 people gave a dollar, that's $500 this week.
Yeah, exactly. And $500 can go a long ways for a small nonprofit like us.
Yeah.
We are a remote nonprofit, so we don't have a ton of currently don't have a ton of overhead expenses. So it like all the money that we're currently receiving goes to helping survivors and to will go towards, towards getting the binders and the ink that we need in order to get these legislative packets made, and eventually the donations will go to travel expenses because I'm going to have to travel to different states to talk to these senators and these U.S. representatives, and that's not going to be free. And I am personally poor.
The last thing I want to throw out to the listener is this. I know that several of you own businesses, and maybe you have like unused binders, unused computer ink, unused ink pens that you're like, hey, I may not have money, but I could donate this. Reach out to me. I will get with Tabitha. I will find out the best way. If it's a pay for shipping kind of thing, I'll pay it. I don't want anyone to be completely out of pocket with something. I will pay it under business name. If you say, hey, I've got all this stuff, I'll box it up, I'll get it to the post office, I'll pay for the shipping. Um, and I'm going to ask that before anyone donates to Survivors Unrestrained. If you are weary about which link to click and which one is the best one where she gets 100%, reach out to us. Let us advise you because every dime counts. If there's 500 of us, if we all did, a GoFundMe and 500 of us donated $10 a piece to the GoFundMe, but you're only getting $5 of that's $250 that you're not getting. That's a lot of
That's
money.
why I'm not using GoFundMe.
Yeah.
That's why,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. So this means a lot. Having you on, Tabitha, means a lot. I'm
Thank you.
glad that we were able
I'm
to get some signatures last night. We were able to make a donation, and I'm confident more is to come. Of course, you'll keep us updated with everything. I've got some
Oh yeah.
information that I'm going to email you with people from last night that are wanting to volunteer their time. So, to the listener, if you have any thoughts, questions, if you are like, you know what, I have an hour, 5 hours, 3 hours a week that I would like to do something if I can, hit us up. I will
Or
get
even a month
in
if you
touch.
have an hour a month.
Right, right. Anything, I will get you in touch with our lovely Tabitha. Okay, so I've been going through my head of different rapid fire questions, and I have so many, but the one that sticks out to me the most is this. When you were in Tranquility Bay, was there a food that was fed to you that you could never touch again?
Fish.
Really? So you're like can't do seafood.
No. They used to feed us mackerel with the head and the scale still on it, and we had to eat it all. And so I just I can't do seafood at all anymore. Looking at it, smelling it makes me ill.
Okay, so I was gonna say, what if you were in a restaurant that like a Red Lobster or something that you could
I
maybe
mean,
get
I
a
wasn't
burger
at Red
from?
Lobster to meet up with survivors like last year, and I just tried to like it made me ill, but I still just kind of you know
Wow.
made it through. But it's not comfortable for me. Just the smell of seafood brings takes me back.
Oh, I can't imagine. Okay, so on the flip side of that, was there something that while you were there that you craved and could not wait to get and that you still treat yourself to this day that like some kind of food?
I mean, I haven't found it yet, but there's this thing called a spice bun, and it's like a bread that's like sweet and a little bit spicy at the same time, but not spicy. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's called a spice bun, but it's delicious. And I actually haven't found it yet. But the one thing I have found that I still like are they're called beef patties. They're like orange and they're like, I don't know if you've ever had Jamaican food, but it's called a beef patty and it's like this and it has like spiced ground beef on the inside and it's delicious. And I get those all the time at the Dollar Tree and warm them up in the toaster oven. Those
Oh,
are delicious.
wow. I love that. I love that. Okay, guys, we're giving you all a bunch to put on the to-do list. We've got to sign the petition. We've got to donate time and money if we can. We've got to share all the things. And then now we also have to fund what was it called? A spice
A
roll?
spice bun.
A spice fund. We've got to find a spice fund and we're gonna find Tabitha a spice bun. That is crazy, and I want to try it with you. That is so great. Okay, thank you so much for being here. Like I said, this will be an ongoing conversation. Just a reminder to the listener: we go live on Tuesdays on TikTok. We're gonna start, and we'll put things on our socials. We're gonna start doing lives, Instagram and YouTube as well. Tabitha
Ooh.
will be back. She is a lifelong friend and she's stuck with us whether she wants to be or not. She will be popping in all the time. Um,
That's all right.
but thank you and good luck surviving ish the apparent non-desert, non-jungle, but rainy, cold Indiana.
Where Indiana Jones is from.
That is hilarious. I adore you. Thank you so much.